All right, team. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. So as I mentioned, in today's topics, basically we'll be learning about meta arguments that is depends on count for its provider lifecycle and provisioners and connections. But we have learned lifecycle last time. In fact, we have not demonstrated depends on what's done count and forest, right? This is very important because first of all, we need to understand why we need to use forest and count in what situation, right? So as we all know, the name suggests meta argument is nothing but to change the default behavior of your Terraform. That means if you can see my code here, right now I have only one storage block. That means it is only going to create one storage account and it is only going to create one resource group. But this is the default behavior. That means within the same resource block, let's say if I had to create maybe three or maybe five same storage account with a different name, how I can make that available or how I can make that create, right? How can I create that? So we will see this one. So as I mentioned, we will be learning about count and a forest. So we will see the difference, right? So first of all, before that, let us understand when to use count and when to use forest. Before that, we need to also understand the difference between forest and count. So I just Google it. You can also search if you are Terraform forest versus count meta argument. Now, like the count arguments, the for is meta argument creates multiple instance of module or resource block. Now, resource block is nothing but together called as a one resource block, right? This is another resource block. So that means if I want to create the same, if you want to create a multiple instance of a module or resource block, multiple instance means with the same resource storage account, if you want to create 10 different storage account with a unique name, definitely it cannot have the same name. It should be a unique name. We can use count as well as forest. But then the thing that's somebody can you approve it? Okay. Okay. So I can use two ways. If I want to create 10 virtual, if I want to create 10 different storage account, one way is to create, one way is to use count. Another way is to use to, another way I can use forest. Now question is when can I use forest? Now if you see this one, however, instead of specifying the number of resource for each data argument, meta argument, accept the map or set of strings. This is useful when multiple resources with different values are required. You still may be confused. Let me make a simple. Now, if you see here, now as I mentioned, this is you have one resource block for a storage account. Now, say for example, I want to create two storage account. How can I make this one? I can use simply count. Count mean you are actually specifying how many number of storage account that you're going to create, right? With one resource block. In my case, I mentioned let's say five or three, let's say. That means this many, yani three different storage account is going to be created. But, but if you notice the name looks, can we have the same name for storage account? No, we cannot have the same storage account. For each storage account should be unique name. I'm not just talking about a storage account. It could be any other resource, right? It cannot have the same name. It should be always unique resource name, of course. So this is why what I have to use here. What can I use? I can use a count.index. What is count.index? Whenever using the count meta argument, I always need to use a, I will just type here. Let's say this is basically a comments, okay? Count dot index. Sorry, index. I have to use it. This is for the storage. Count. Now this is one way. Second way, if I don't want to use this one count, there is a for each, right? For each, this is also another meta argument. Here, for is whatever value I can define for now, and I will not define the value for now. Just giving some comments here. Let's say I want to give for is, as I mentioned, it is a key. value. Don't worry for now. Just keep this now. Now you might be thinking what it means. Let me show you in the this thing. If I talk about the count, let's say I'm ignoring the forest. What it means basically, if I'm using this one, as I told you, there are two different ways to create multiple resources, but mostly we can use the count or forest. One of them we can be used, but remember we cannot use this all two. Like that means we cannot use count as well as forest together. We can use either one. The question is, if you see the definitions, what it says, like the count argument for its meta argument creates multiple instances of module resource block. That means it can have a based on the resource block. It can be a map or set of strings. That time we can use a forest. What is map or set of strings? We will understand in some time. But count, as name suggests, that means how many number of storage account that you are going to create. So as I mentioned, three. That means three storage account going to create. But what about the other information? But when to use this one? We can be used this only when you have a identical resources whenever you want to create. That means what is mean by identical? It can be a similar configurations. It's not that complex at different values, right? It can have a similar values with different desired name. Yeah, so that means that is identical. That situation we can go with the count. So we will understand a little bit. Let's go to documents. Now count, right? Yeah, for creating multiple resource instance according to a number, as I mentioned, that means if you're specifying as 10 count is equal to 10, that means 10 different storage account is going to be created in one resource block. For each is but similar of that to create multiple instance according to a map or set of strings. That means here means it's not specifying. Let's say if you, this is here means you have to define the how many resources you want to create, or the resource mean it could be any resource, right? Storage account or VM or anything that you have to define the number of count. But in this case, it's not like that. There is nothing called defining the number of how many resource you want. But then the how you define the map. If you have a map, let's say 2 times we define, 2 resources will be created. Three, if you have created 3 times different mapping, if you give a key value pair, then 3 different storage account or could be any other resources going to be created, or could be strings. So we will see this also. Okay, so let's go a little bit here. So you can have a look once this one, but I want to spend much time for now. But in your case, yes, you can go through this one if you have a time. So let's go directly to the um, here count, right? Count here. Count, as I mentioned, we are talking about a count. Let's focus count. If a resource or module block includes a count argument that we have defined, right? Those value is a whole number. Terraform will create that many instance. As I mentioned, if I create three means three different resource, storage account in our case going to be created. Okay, then each instance has a distinct infrastructure object associated with it, and is separately created, updated, and destroyed when configuration is applied. So as we all know, it will be manage individual resource. Let's say that means three means three different storage account going to be created. Now, then the count meta argument accepts numeric expression. So as we all know, numeric means a number, right? 1, 2, 3 numbers, some number. I can define it. Now the count value must be known before Terraform perform any remote resource action. That means if you have any other actions in your remote, so basically all you need is to define within your resource block. Okay, just after defining your resource block, basically. Even before name also, okay? It should be just after defining the resource block. Now, normally how it should be called? It should be called as a count or index. As I mentioned, these the distinct index numbers starting with 0 corresponding to its instance. That means if you mention 3 means how the ratio is going to be created. As I mentioned, the count number and the index number always start with the count or index we mentioned, right? It should start with a 0. Count number start with, that means if I have a 3, that means 3 storage account going to be created, but then the name of the storage account will be 0, then 1, and then 2. Okay, that means 3 total. That way it is going to create it. Anyway, we will see in some time. Now, when count is set, Terraform distinguishes between the block itself and the multiple resource or module instance associated with this instance. So as I mentioned, this is the index and this is a zero starting position. Module support. For now, you can, yeah, this also we know it. As I mentioned already, we support if anything that is more than 0.13. So let us see more in this. As I mentioned, the given resource for module block cannot use both count and a forest. So it cannot use count and forest together. It should be either one. Now, if you see here, as I mentioned, I have given as 3. Now I can give something like this. This is nothing but defining count index number if I have to call. Okay, so we have to use like this. In my case, how I can be used? This is the name, right? Variable name. In my case, I can give anything. Let's say, so let's say account name, uh, $sign. Right, sorry, this is the sign. Open curly braces. I can give the count index. But if you notice here is coming like this, let's see what it says now. In Billy character, the character is used within the language. So as I told you, so if you notice here, you basically define something, right? So what value, whatever we are doing, we cannot use like this if you use. So we will remove this one. Let's not use the name from the because we are defining the name, whatever name, right? I will go to the here, maybe here, yes. So what I'll do, I will just put this one as a out of this thing. I'll give some name. I'll just give some other name. Let's say in just simple case, I'll just mention st. Basically, you can define from the variable also, but then the syntax basically we need to check how many how we syntax to be used. Okay, if I want to use like that, st, sorry, storage else. If you just, as I told you, you can see the logo what we actually count dot index, right? So we have to use, because this is a string, as I told you. If you want to use like this also with the name also, that means this will be the first name and this will be the index, the count dot index. That means index number starting with 0. That means first storage account will be after this thing, it will be something like this. Let me give you, let's copy this one, because this is optional. I have given the hyphen in between, right? If you want, you can give or you can ignore. In this case, it will be like this. Actual name will be like this. Okay, but if you don't want this name, or if you want to keep as it is as before, then we can also use different way. Let's say if I want to use like this, I can use just select everything till here. If you select, use the double quotes. If you use double quotes, that means now what happened now? The value basically in the sense the variable, whatever you have defined the variable name right here, storage account, this name here, this value you are passing in your where, remember it is passing in your default, where is the name, here, this name, right? At last it will be like this. So let me do one thing. I will keep this as let's say I'll keep as 1 for now, so that I want to start with the 0, right? At last it will be as 0. Now if you want to the storage account name, if you want something like this, then you have to use this one. You should not be using here. This should be using in your Terraform only. I mean, just let me remove this for now. Let me, this is the name. Now if you go here main.tf, as you can see here, I can define like this, at last hyphen, right? So I can define like this, hyphen I can give. If you don't want hyphen in after the name, you can just give like this. In my case, I don't want to give it, just to identify. That is why. If you don't want also, that's okay. Okay, that's the first thing. Now what is it going to do? As I mentioned, that means right now it is going to be created 3 different storage account. Before that, let me maybe run Terraform fmt, right, format. So it is going this thing. Maybe it's not taking. Maybe we can just type empty recursive. Okay, sometimes some is not taking. Anyway, so as I mentioned, I removed this one. Right now, as I told you, three basically what you call storage account going to be created. Okay, only the three storage account. That means, as I told you, first storage account would be with whatever index number is given. Second would be 1 2 like that. 0 1, it will be start with 0 always. Okay, 0 1 2 like that, because I mentioned as 3. Now let's see that if you run Terraform validate, you can check to see if there is an issue in your code. Code is looking good. As I told you, there's nothing, we have done much changes, but let me see if I run Terraform apply, sorry, plan. If you want, you can check it. That means now you can see the three resource name, storage account name in one resource block. Only the index numbers are going to be changed. Now, what if you see here, here lowercase, oh, the lowercase I have not mentioned. I can define, but it is all lowercase only. I don't know where it's showing. Storage pulse. It is showing. Okay, I got it. The reason why is having this showing lowercase, but it is all lowercase we see here. Everything is lowercase, but still it is showing that we need to use the lowercase. The reason being, as I told you, for specifically storage account, if you noticed it, there is always issue with the naming standard. Like it should be unique, and also it has not should not be any special this thing. So I given this, after this thing. This is the reason it's coming. Now, if you remove this one, it will go. The error may go now. There are chances of having this issue mostly only for the storage account related, not for other issues. Let's see that. Maybe expand it. Okay, can only consist lowercase. Oh, I have defined everything lowercase, but it's always the one thing. What can I give the name then? Okay, some name I'll give random st DevOps pulse. Um, let's say I'll give as 9. Let's say. Right, let me check. It is showing this thing. Oh my god. It's taking from, why is taking the edit? It is all lowercase, but why still telling me to define lowercase? Strange. Do one thing. Let's not make this thing. I will keep a short name. I will not take from the variable. Maybe they want some still short name. st pulse storage, something like that. Okay, this will be the actual storage account name. Now, right now, I have not taken from the what do you call, from your variable file, but it is taken from the here. There is some naming this thing issue. Okay. So as you can see now, it is able to print out. But okay, I will same name. I will try to give it here then this time. What I call, if I can. Sorry, it is here, right? Let me this same name. Now I'll try to maybe this time again. Maybe I can use collaborations again. I can use this way otherwise. Okay, so I can call directly like this. Bad dot, what is the storage account, right? What is that? Can you tell me the name? It is a variable name is, where is that? Storage accounts, and the storage account name. Okay, I can call something like this, where storage account dot name. Let's see if I can call something like this. This is another way of basically defining it. Okay, great. Yeah, so this is also working fine. So whenever basically if you're dealing with a variable, so if you notice initially we did not give this what you call that dollar sign, right, and a curly braces. The reason if you don't use this concept here, that is a count, normal way basically make let me give you this thing as a node. Okay, this is basically you can use something like this, where dot storage account whatever name dot name. This is we can define, right? But if you want to along with this one, if there is any other like variable you have it like it has to be dynamically defined. Say for example this one condor index. So this is why I have used here also. So that because there are two different variable now, right? Because this is one variable, this is another variable. So to in this case, we need to always call define that in the first scenario, it is only taking one from the variable file directly. This is the one, right? But right now we want to dynamically define storage account name along with the index number. So in this case, always I need to use something like this. Okay. So we are good now, as you can see. We will try to create it. Let's see. Apply or to auto. Okay. Can you double dash? So before that, let us also see the plan. Plan anyway is going to come. Yeah. Now anyway, it is going to create 4 resources. Why 4 resources? As I told you, there are 3 storage account going to be created, right? But you have to know how the naming is given. This is very careful. We need to understand the naming. Now, only defining the 3 storage account with the name whatever you define, it has to be created. Now you see it is creating 1 resource group, 3 storage account. Total 4 resource going to be created. So you can see right now it is just going on. 1 minute, I just come back. So let's wait. Meanwhile, what we will do, we'll also try to refer some documents. So I have already opened it, or you can also Google it. You will get it. You can type something like count meta arguments in Terraform, something like that. Okay. So this will give you the complete understandings, basically to understand better about count. So meanwhile, I'll also try to open my portal. So let's understand now first thing. As I told you, this module supports count was added. That is anything that is this version 0.13 and above. Okay, now if you come down, you can also see by default this was block configure real-time object. Now you can also check this one. If you click one more, right click, open different tab, This is a resource block. Now you get an option something like this. Basically, you can read more about this one. Resource count down, meta argument. You can see depends on count for creating this thing. Now, if you can go one of them, if you know it, it's okay. Now let's go with one of the thing count we are for creating multiple resource instance according to the count. So let's create this one. I mean, let's go here. So this is talking about the count. Now you can see how count is used now. But one thing is that in I don't know in Terraform they don't give example of the Azure resource. They always try to give a resource example of Terraform. I mean AWS. But that's okay. We just need to understand the concept. I have given before. That means this many similar students is going to be created, and this is the configurations I want. Now same thing we have done. So as I told you, the tag name also I want to call server at the last with this name. This is what I have defined. Let us see now. So it is got successfully created. One interesting thing we need to know here, if you go to the storage account, as I mentioned, we created 3 storage account. You can see, right? I did not give any hyphen now. If you give hyphen also, you can give it. Hyphen does, we cannot give dash mass normally, but you can give hyphen. If you see storage account, whatever is the st pulse storage 0, 1, 2, and so on. Because as I mentioned, with the same resource group, I have created 3 storage account. I mean, not storage account. I mean, yeah, 3 storage account, right? Only the names, if you see here, I given a counter index because dynamically it will take care by the Terraform. Now, if you go to the main.tf, sorry, variable file, this is the name I given, right? This is the name I given actually. So this is what I have defined here also dynamically here, right? With a variable name. Same thing. Now, if you go here also, if you search like this, you can see start with 1, all rest same 0, 1, 2, 3. But question is, this is good, no issue here. But try to understand one thing. Now, imagine that already this particular 3 resource, that is a 0, 1, sorry, 0, 1, 2 already created. I can give you many scenario. Let's say it is already created. That means, as I told you, the storage account name should be always unique, right? But if it is created already, as I told you, but according to the documents, it will create again 0, right? Again, it will try to create with this number. But I don't want to do it. I want to create instead of the, let's say, till 5 number, from 1 to 5 resource already created. But in our case, 0 to 2 already created. Now I want same resource to be created in my Terraform code. I want to create instead of this number. Now, as I told you, it is starting from which number? 0, 1. But I want to mention, no, I don't want the 0 index number. By default, 0 index number is starting is the 0 index number, but I want storage account name to be available or shown from 1, not 0. That means 1, 2, 3. Instead of 0, it should start with the 1. How can I make that? Let's see that. This is all normally used in your real time because nobody wants to give your name as the what you call 0. Nobody will give 0. So you have to get 1, 2, 3 like that. What I can do here, index, just use a space plus. Plus is nothing but always additional. You have to add it, right? Now you give which number you want to start with. You want to start with the 1, give 1. You want to start with a 10, 10. Let me, I'll make a 10 so that you will please you. Now that means I'm trying to say now, okay, boss, whatever is resource that you have created, you started with the 0 index number, mean name as a 0, but I don't want to give this name. I want my storage account name to be started, starting with 10. Okay. Then this is the case. I can give it this argument. This is another very popular useful comments. This one just use on a plus you 10. If you want to give above 100 storage account name, you can give. In my case, now at last it will be 10, 11, 12 like that will come. Let's see that. I will save it. Now what will do by default? By default, as I told you, the storage account basically we are changing the name, right? because it was already created with the old name. Now instead of this name, as I told you, this is the default name, but now I'm trying to say, please make it should be starting from 10. So this is what I have defined it now. So if you see the here also, this is all going to be this now it is destroying it, because as I told you, see the index number. This is the index number. This is how you call square bracket, and you can see that 0, 1, 2, 3. So see, they will destroy the existing first. This is the default behavior. Again, if you don't want that to be happen, again there is a meta argument, right? We can learn that, right? If you don't want to destroy it, first you want to create with a new name, then we can use something called as a create before destroy as a life cycle name, right? So yeah, so let's wait. It will now see it is destroyed. I think yeah, it's going on now. It is creating new one with the new name. That means this time it is going to create not with the 0 index number but from 10. So this is all real time scenario that you will be you have to understand it. Let's wait. Maybe it takes some at least some minutes. So as I told you, right now I could see one resource which is starting with 10. I'm at 12. Sorry, 12, but there will be other two created soon. See here, 10, 11, 12. Isn't it very interesting, right? So you don't have to worry about the any resource name also. There is a function to use it, but we need to know how to use it. So if you want to start with the 100, because 100, if let's say till 20 you have all the storage account available, or maybe any other resource, you can give simply apart from 10, I mean 20, you can give it, let's say 20 here, 20, when 20 from 21, the storage account should be created. Mean you can just mention that number here, right? You can just mention here like this. So the storage account will be created from this number only. This is the beauty of this one. So now for each storage account would have their basically we can work individually. This has a separate configurations, this has a separate, but one thing what you notice here, this all the storage account, right? This all the storage account, if you see here, what is like what is here LRS, right? Replication LRS, anything like any properties basically. Here also if you go, it also same LRS. So basically that means this is all identical, right? So in this kind of requirement, if you want a similar configurations like this, but you want to create the 100 or 200 or maybe 50 resources with the same configurations, only the name is different. In the that cases, we can go with the count meta argument. But for each is not something like that. So I hope this is clear. First, let me destroy this one. I will just destroy it. I can use a apply. Again, I can use a destroy here also. This also works fine for me. Apply destroy also, it will work for me. Let me give arguments. Okay, let me give an argument, destroy. Now also it is already created, right? So it is going to, it will destroy right now for them. You can see here, they're checking the state file, it is going to destroy. So fine. I hope this is clear for the state file system. But as I told you, there are so many documents that you need to just go through and understand it. This how we have to call the index number, how we can modify it, everything. Same way as I told you, if you're going with this thing, this is the reference name. I can check it here. Like you can see the subnet means list of strings. So we can have so many options. If it's a tags also everything. But if you have a complex data type, then how we can use also, again with the help of this count or index only we need to use it. Okay, because right now this is a very simple code, but if as you work into the big huge configuration Terraform, that case you may need to basically understand how we can pass all this one. But as I told you, I will give you that also as a guide. I will give you notes for that. You can have a look at that also. So it is tested fully. Now let us go with the second one, that is a forest, right? If you go forest, forest basically, as I told you, if you have a map of object, basically this thing or set of strings, you want to map them. That case you can define. That means if you are, let's say, here, if you see here, I have storage account. Let's say I can have a different storage account, different configurations, different properties. If you want that kind of situations where you need to have different configurations, different, not identical, but different requirements, That case you can use a for is. But here you have to use a while defining the data or maybe the variables, carefully you have to define it. Okay, this one I have already shown you. Let me show you maybe one of them. If you remember that day, if you go to my repository, if you go here, right, real time infrastructure as code I said with Terraform on Azure, right? If you go here, as I told you, this is how normally this is a module, and we have this one. I will explain everything about module when it comes to module, right? So if you go here, let me go inside module first. There is a storage account, let's say, and main.tab. If you go now, what you understand here, this is how the real time in the actually it you are using. This is basically creating resource group. Resource group also there is a naming standard they will follow. First, it should be environment name. RG, it should start with the RG, then and then hyphen, then environment name, then it should hyphen again, then the region. It has to be the resource group name should be like that, naming standard. So that case we same thing, primary location as you can see, this is a primary region. But when you comes to the storage account, right? Let me just make it zoom, right? Yeah. So if you see the storage account details, resource group, sorry, resource in my storage account, I use a for is. The for is why I use, if you see how it is being used now, is dot value, then dot name. So how it is because if you see here, there is no any proper name here. I just, all I can see was is dot value and the last name. How this name is derived, right? We should know that one. So to make that simple, first thing, as I told you, when to use for is. So for is, as you can see here, for is basically, if you want to here, right, the method recommend, if you have accept the map or set of strings, if you want to map of accept map or set of strings, map is nothing but basically, say for example, let me take your same example. If you go to my TFR file, right, this is something called a storage account. Storage account is my file name. Now here, under here, if you see here, like st Azure DevOps Pal 01 is my one storage account. This is the name, right? Name, storage account name. Same way, I have another storage account name 2. This is 1, this is 2. This is I can use 2. So that means if you just compare, this is one resource group. I mean, this is one resource. That means this is one storage account details. This is another storage account details. Now, if you compare these two between these two, you might be noticing that first thing the name is different. It should be name. I can give any name. It's not mean I can only give this name. I can give any name whatever I want. But when it comes to count, you cannot give any name. It should be identical. That means you should be having some standard naming standard. Let's say by default your storage account till here as your DevOps pulse main till here main, it will start with a 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on or whatever number. But when it comes to the for is, this number you can give your name, you can give somebody's name or anything you can give. All separate, the name should be unique. You can give any name uniquely. Second thing, if you see here tr, it is this particular storage account need to be created as a standard, where in another storage account should be created as this one. But if you notice here, we don't have that option capability to basically do it using count, right? If you go with the here also, because this is only one block, right? We only have one block. If you go here, we only have having only one block, so we don't have anything. So this is the problem with the count. So count is basically, as I told you, only when you want to create the identical BVM or same configuration of the setup, only the name is different. In that case, you can go with the count. For each mean for each resource, if you want that to be unique name, unique properties, unique value, key value pair, that case you can go with the for each. As I mentioned here also you can see premium, here is showing a standard. Same replication type ZRS, here LRS. Just to make things simple, this is how. Same thing for container also you can see like this. So if you want this kind of different configurations for each storage or not just storage for any resource, that situation, yes, you can go with the forest. Okay. No, but in our simplicity case, how we can make, as I told you, this one we have learned. Now let's remove this one, count. Count now, if I want to use this thing, how I can use it? First thing, my I don't care about, for now I don't care about the properties. What I care about is about the naming, because properties, as I mentioned, that is how like the one I showed like this. No, you have to define it, but I don't want to do that for now. But I want to show you how we can make here also using what you call queries. So let me go. So as I told you, whenever I want to call, I want to use, first let me organize this thing, right? This is the default one. Now I need to know, I want to call, what I want to call, I want to call the storage account. For now, you can maybe remove this one. Let's keep as previous, right? This is the default one, right? This is the default one now. Now, as I told you, this is the default one now. Now I want to map for each one. How I have to map? The value, whatever I have to map that one. In my case, let's say I have only one name with the same configuration. Okay. In your case, if it is a more, it will create more. Now, what I can do is that I have to call here for is here, right? Then where the storage account. Question might be thinking why I'm calling this one. Yes, of course, I need to use this because it has to map, right? How it has to map? It has to map the value from your variable file, right? This is the reason why I'm calling to map it. So there is a map variable dot storage account. If you go storage account, I have this name right here. Let's say if you have a different value, okay, let me get uh different value, right? You can have one more different value also if you want to do so. Okay, so if you have one more value like this, you can define here. But let's not do that for now. As I told, this I have shown here like that. You can make it. Now, next, what we have to do? Go back here. Then this is the important for us now. Right now, say for example, only one we have it. Now, I can simply use. I can remove this also. Is there key and value is there? Question is what is key and value? You want key or value? Key means on your what is left side, right? Right value right side mean value. I want a name, so it will be value. But what it means now? That means now I want to call. I have defined the variable from where it has to map, right? It has to map from the storage account. I have something called as a name, right? Let me see. Under here, I have a map as a name. If you go here, right? Storage account as a name. Name is basically it's a string, right? I want to call this one. Now this actual value was defined here, right? I want to call this name, but here name I given default. So that means I have called first this one dot, because under here I have to call I want to call whether this is mapping, right? Whether I want to call now key or value. Key mean this is the key. Name is a key. Value is this one. That means I want to call the value, right? I want to, because key already defined there. I have to call the value. So I want to call this mean that means key dot is dot value. This is what I have defined here. If you see here, where is that? Here is dot value. Sorry, uh, name, right? Is dot value dot name, because dot name, as I told you, it is coming from there only. Now if you see here, it will only create one, but if you want to create more, then as I told you, you have to map them in your variable file or in your tier bars file. Case we can define like this, we can have a different. Okay, but let's do this thing. Now if you go here, refresh it, I will remove this also this time. So we can basically get sorry error. Is there value the storage account name string? Okay, So in this case, no problem. Then we can simply start value name. If you can see that also, we can also, like as I told you, there is documentations you can follow. Let's say it's the key, we can set it. It's just code key. But if you have multiple, just like how I showed, we can map it. Just like here, is that value is a key like that. But if you have a many like this thing, we can define it. Right. So let me maybe remove it. 1 second, save it. Number is not. Again, we are having issue with this name. Okay, there is an issue with naming standard. So anyway, don't worry. So as I told you, this is how we have to define it. So let me show you that's what I have done already. So if you notice, same thing, we created this thing like forest. I created using the forest, and I called a variable name. That is where I have my basically the variable file here, right? Variable file I have with this name. I have to use the map of object. The reason now, as I told you, if you remember this concept, right now, if you go with the tier words file, issue will come because you do not see anything. This is just an object, right? This cannot map it, right? This cannot map it. So this will throw the error. It's not matching. Okay. The reason what, if you, as I told you, if you notice here, what it says, however, instead of where is here, fish here. Uh, for each meta argument, it creates multiple instances of a module or resource. However, instead of specifying number of resources for each meta arguments, accept map or set of strings, right? Accepts map or set of strings. But if you notice here, as I told you, we do not have any map here. It's a map. It is object. It's not a map. Okay. This is the reason why we need to know the data structure. So as I mentioned now, in my case, I have already defined the object here. If you notice, this is the reason why I have defined it here under storage account. You can see map, right? Map of object. It's not an object. It's a map of object. Then only they can loop it. So then only they can loop it. Okay. If you can, but if you come to here, as I told you, we don't have any this thing. It's just a default. There is no any. This is just an object. So this is the reason why they're not able to pass the value. So pass the value, then you have to change this thing. How can you change this one? As I told you, maybe try to. Okay, in my case, let me copy paste it this also because it should be map of object. I don't need it everything, but yeah, for simplicity purpose, I will hash this out. Then I will just remove this also. Let me this thing. That means now, as I told you, this has to be map of object storage account because I want to map for each storage account with different properties, right? Let's say for this here, this actual value is passed where? I think tag 2 times I have made it. Okay, that's okay. Tag, okay. I can command this also. I don't need for now because I have it. Okay. So this is how we need to understand it. So now, as I told you, it has to map for each one. It has to map. But where is the value now? As I told you, normally the actual value should be passed in your TF now. If you go to TF file, if you go, this is for this storage account. This is for another storage account. Let me take only this TF for now. Okay. Let me take. Now I can create one TF file. Maybe, yes, I'll create within here. TF, sorry, Terraform.tf bars. Now let me give any name. As I told you, I can give any name, right? So any name meaning maybe just to give, let's say this is 9, this is some other name, or let it be this name, or maybe I'll keep something. That means whatever name you want as in this thing. Sorry, not this one, my bad. This is the name, actual name. This name you can give any name. I'll give S. Okay, this is actually storage account name. I can give any name. Let's say, I think there is some limitation, right, in storage account. Pulse, okay. Something like that I can give. Here I can define some other name. So like that. So basically, as I told you, this has a separate value, separate properties, right? So now this is defined in TF verse. Same thing you can define in your distinguisher, but while defining data type, you have to carefully mention as an list of strings or maybe of map. Now, okay, this is good. Now here, now if I come here, this is now here, I need to change this everything. Now what I have to do is a storage account, storage accounts. Okay. Now dot name. This also I can use it instead of premium also. Whatever I have defined there, I can use it. Do one thing. In my case, yeah, I will do one thing. The old variable file, right? This one. This is the old, right? There is an old variable file for storage account. Where is that? Okay, I have already commented out. Good. I have commented already. Okay, this old one. So it will take the new one only. Now I'll go back here. Then here also, if you want to call the access tier, account tier, right? You can use is dot value dot account tier, account tier. Like this, we can define dynamic way. It has to map whatever value we have it. The replication type, I can remove. I can define the value dot account replication type like that. Because this all value, if you go here, I have defined it. If you noticed it, you can see replication type. This thing as a map object, it has to map. Okay, and backups, everything. So this is why I have defined that way. Now, as I told you, same way, if you have a tags also, we can do, but tags already using the map of strings, that's okay. Now, if I go with the next, let me run the pipelines. Okay, it's successful. I can check the plan. Okay, let me check plan. If there is any issue also, I can fix it. Same now, meanwhile, it will take some time. Okay, now if you see here, now it is showing unsupported. The object does not attribute a constant type. Unsupported attributes main.tf. Now this is the thing we need to basically try to troubleshoot. Now if you see, this is an object with attributes, 7 attributes. Object. Okay. Now what is the number? Is line number main.tf line number 13. Main.tf line number 13 means this is maybe this one, right? Now replication type, we need to go back to here and see replication type. Tf file replication type LRS. One is LRS, one is LRS. Okay, main about replication type. Can you see here replication type? Here, string, right? So as I told you, this is the value. This is a map of object. So while passing the value, if you notice here, you will get one of the other issue while passing the value. So this is why we need to basically check how we should be passing that. So as I told you, this is basically the replication this number. 13 number, right? 13 min. Okay, this one. While passing, if you give like this or is that value, replication issue is having. Okay, anyway, so I will check this one replication issue. Meanwhile, we can keep as default then this thing, right? Because there is a looping account tier, account tier. So while defining, just carefully verify basically. If there is a small mistake in the defining the variable also, we need to check it. So I will just give no. The thing is that we are copying pasting right from one storage account to different. There will be different issue will come. So while doing it, you have to carefully design it. So see now one or the other will not support, as I told you, because we simply copy pasted and our structures, whatever we have defined, and this particular storage account structures not matching. The reason, if you notice here we have containers, backups, and failover everything. But in our case, if you go to the variable file also, we don't have that details. It is a very simple. This is the reason why the data types are not matching. It is not able to map properly. So while defining, you have to map the properly. Then only the issue not come. But anyway, as I told you, this one, if you want, you can run it. So yeah, for your this thing, I will run this one and show you so that it is already configured according to the configuration wise. Let me create here. Okay, let me just git clone. Yeah, as I told you, because while mapping now, we have to just carefully map once again because data type not matching, then will be a issue. So let's not fix that. It will take a lot of time. So we will go this turn. So as I told you, this is how we can check, or maybe let me go within the repository itself. cd real time something, right? This is the repo. I'm inside of the repo now. Now I can see this module. Now what we have to do here, containers and all we have it. But as I told you, this is advanced one. Let's go with this one. So if you go with this thing, where dot this thing, because according to the configurations, I have defined a variable. First thing is this one, storage account name. So I have defined here storage account name string, but it is a type is a map of object. As I told you, it should be map or set of strings, right? So this is the map now. Same thing, replicate the types I mentioned, all the details I have mentioned, including containers. So, but then this value has to be, as I told you, it can have a n number of properties, a set of properties, right? So this is why I have defined in the tier bars, or you can define here also, but it is defined anywhere you can define it. In my case, I have defined it here. This is how I have defined it, right? So whatever name you, this is a different storage account name properties with different configurations. Same way for another storage account would have different configurations. Then we have to do and show. Okay, now we have understood. Now let me change this thing. As I told you, this can be any name. I can give as 555, I given here. I given as this just like that. Maybe I'll give as 777. Okay. First thing name. Second thing, I need to go to the providers. Under providers, we have where is that here, right? I need to define here. Provider here. Here I need to define a provider. I can copy paste here. Where is the provider? Here, sorry. Let me enter. Okay, no, sure. Okay, so I have defined the details. Now I will try to be login. I mean, create the resource here. This is particular module. This is not the outside of module. As I mentioned, I have switched to the branch. So if I type now, I need to run Terraform init once again. I can check if it already installed, maybe. Yeah. So I will run it. There's an issue. Sorry, spelling is wrong. Terraform init. I will run. This is within the module. So as I told you, you have to just mention the specific requirements in your variable file and organize accordingly. Okay. So it is initializing right now. So let's wait for maybe a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, as I told you, you can also have a look these documents. There are so many documents out there. You can follow these also if you want to explore. Let's say if you're working with VPCs or virtual network in Azure case, it should be a map of object like that. Why map of object? Because we do have a different kind of bnet name and different subnet name. For each bnet would have a different subnet, right? Then how it will get mapped, right? This is when we need to understand that also. And okay, next I will run Terraform validate, validate, Terraform plan not required. Let me directly apply. So so now let's see what storage account is going to create. Total 8 storage account is going to be created. Sorry, 8 resources. How 8? First thing, uh, let's wait, because if you go to the module, right? First thing, let's go here. Here we have module. Under module, I have two modules. One is for the resource group module. Second is a storage account group. This basically resource group is a separate resource. So one resource going to create. And under storage account, I have already defined main.tiv also. I have also defined one more resource group. That means two resource group will be created. One is for the module. Second one is for the within part of your storage account. The question is, do I need two resource group? The answer is no, I don't need, but still I wanted to show you as a module base. This is the reason. Okay. Now, yeah, that's the first thing. And this is how we have to define it. Is the value with a tier, everything while mapping, just map properly. There should not be any syntax issue. You should check it, whether it is correctly defined or not. Now, if you see here, it is still trying to basically create. Let's see. And second thing, I will just give a small overview about the module also, why we are using it, right? Anyway, we have a section for this, but just to give overview, if you notice, normally module structure, how it works, right? In the real time, something called as this can be a modules S. Okay, I given as a module. It should be a modules S. Okay, that's first thing. Second thing, this you can give any name, but then still it is good practice to follow some namings according to the this thing, right? So fine. Now within the module, in the same directory of the module, you have to have minimum variables.tf, provider.tfs, tf, main.tf, and also output.tf. Okay. Now question is, why I need the output.tf? Because variables I understand. Why output is required? Let me go inside one of the, this is a module. Basically inside the module, I can define the set of resource. Let's say so that I can use the same resource in multiple places as in when required. So these are resource, right? That means under module directory, I can have a set of resources defined. Let's say, for example, this is one resource that is a storage account. Same for storage account on the resource. Now I can organize that way. Now, if you go one of the module, you will see something called main.tf, variable.tfs, and output.tfs. Main.tf, as we all know, this basically we have all our Terraform code configuration file, right? But when it comes to the what you call very output.tfs, sorry, let's go with the variable.tfs. Basically, instead of defining the hardcode value, right, we are defining as a data type and passing in the real as part of the best practice. We are passing this value to our tfs file, but this value, the actual value, can be passed in your variable file as well. But it is not a good practice to do so. You can always try to pass the actual value from your variable also to your tfs file. Okay. So this is why I have just defined a data type so that Terraform will understand what is the type of this data so that they can get a proper this thing. That's the first thing. Second thing, about the this thing, what they call output. Output is nothing but basically to basic example, you creating some resources or anything, right? After creation, you want to say, for example, you created the storage account. Now you may be wondering how to see the storage account name, or maybe how to see the storage account resources id, or maybe any other, they have any other url or anything, right? So to basically give that as an output so that we can see also, right? So we can use the output. Second reason why we use the output is that, say for example, this particular module you are using now in the storage module. Let's say same module you want to use for some other locations, or in different locations, or the project or anything. So without having a project output, you cannot use as a module. So whenever you use as a module, you have to use the output also. So that output is nothing but it extract your information such as your ID. As you can see here, in my case, output, what output I want for a storage account name. In my case, list of created storage account with their name and ID. I want to list storage account name as well as their ID also, so that this is the value I want to extract this. You may be confused, this one, this looks complex. Yes, it is quite complex by seeing this what I call values, or maybe this thing. Normally this should not be the case. I'll show you the simple one. Okay. If you want to check the storage account storage value, just mention storage account output like that. Sorry, outputs in Terraform. Every single resource has output. You can go there documents also if you know. Okay. Now if you see here, now this is basically resource, this is no output, but output also if you want, as I told you, you will get it. You can simply search. You can type like this otherwise. Uh, for storage. Um, okay, account, something like that. Uh, 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 data source is there, output is there, official documents also is there. Let me try to directly get the official documents. Maybe I can just first go to the Terraform registry. Right, we all know Terraform registry will go first. Terraform registry. I can go here also. I can search it. Let me search directly storage account. Otherwise, okay, Terraform resource storage account. If you go here, this normally that is how we can basically extra, right? You can see only resource, but you do not see the output sometime here. So if you want to get the output, let me show you the one. If you go any of the resource, uh, output, let me know if you can see somewhere outputs, right? This type. Okay, it's not showing here, but anyway, I will show you how to do it. That documents also is there, but sometime when you need it, no documents are not finding it. I will give you documents also. It is there, okay. But I will give you how we can do actually. Say for example, I want to just give a normal storage account, and what we can do is in your here you do not see Let me go storage account here, right? So instead of this is quite complex, right? This data seems complex because as I told you, this is using the forest and it has a much more advanced functions here. Okay, I will explain this later anyway. But to make it thing simple, so what we can do whenever you want to define, always you have to call with the output. Say for example, let me show you. I can simply mention as output. First use output. I want to output for the storage account name. Now in the output, I can define the storage account name. In my case, Azure provider name, right? Azure RM, then storage account name. If you see here, storage account. Maybe if you go here also, you can get the actual name. You can copy paste it. This is storage account block, right? You can copy this till here. It was going to create, right? Same thing. You can copy, come back here, under here. This is a normal. Okay, that's how it is. Now, next what I need to basically, I'm trying to say that I want to output for my storage account. Now, next now. Next, I will have to give a value. Value basic nothing but what information I need to value define. So there are two way I can define. Okay, one is using Azure RM storage account. If I want to mention the name, I can give as a name. That means I can extract storage account name. This is one way of doing it. But in this case, yes, you can use this, nothing wrong. Same thing for the ID. If you want to call, I can call with the ID, right? But what if you notice here, these all are a string, right? This is a string. But what if we have multiple values I want to call? Normally, nobody will write the code like this, output separate output file, right? So it has to be defined just like this one. How we can do that, right? So a little bit advanced. Not I'm not going this advanced, but slowly one more listing I'll show you how we can do. So I can do simply use this thing, right? Same thing value. Whenever I want to list a set of strings, right? You want to pass it or you want to define it, I can use a curly braces now. After value, I can use a curly braces. And so then now enter. Now here you can define it, the value. Okay. Here I can value mention, let's say you can mention you can actually here just like how we define here, we can define here. In my case, mention Azure RM, let's say storage account dot name here. But if we have to, if you see here one more, I want to call now storage account ID, right? But one thing, if you notice that I'm getting some error here. So the reason why I'm getting error is that you need to understand whenever you're listing multiple strings are here, you always need to use a comma here. Let me click a cursor there. If you can also understand maybe here missing a pretty value expected here values. Fine. So what I can do, you can use something like this. We can use a comma. But then, as I told you, this value basically our data types are not matching it with our current configurations. This is the reason it is not happening, because as I told you, when you're defining this way also we can define. Otherwise, what we can do, let me take you the documents. You can copy this one, right? Go to maybe here accounts. That means output storage account is single. This is for the data source. You can ignore, but then if you see the to define to while defining this thing, you can get this thing. Okay, like this we can define. This is for one way. But as I told you, but if you have a multiple, normally what we can do, this has to be like you have to mention something like this. If you want to give a name, data type, you can give name is equal to similar way. I can use ID. Okay, this way normally we can define this also. So you can mention the ID mean Azure RM storage account name dot name. Same thing for the ID. I can simply copy paste it or this thing. Okay, now if you see, now the error is gone because this is also I have if you want multiple values just like here, I can define like the ID name like this, right? Just name I had defined, ID I had defined like that. But here mean much more advanced one. This mean very simple way. This was we can define. Otherwise we can define the separate one. Like separate mean how we can define. But nobody does that. I'm just showing you that is also possible. Instead of defining this one, what I can do, remove everything. That everything means you can remove this also. Okay, you can simply mention here. Let's say I want to define this time is group name or ID like this. I can define this also, no issue here also. But then nobody does that because this is very simple one. You will have n number of configurations within the resource, right? So this is why in one output name you have to define it. For example, this is output for containers. So I have defined this way. If it is for the storage account details, I have to define name and this thing. Because if you notice here, let me check if everything is created now. It's okay, created some resource film. Okay, no problem. Let us go and see. Let me go to the storage account, right? Now, as I told you, I have created two storage account as per the configuration, right? If you notice here, I mean, if you go to a bars file, where is that? Here, TFVers file. I have given two different name, different configurations with the double five and the 777. Now you can check here, double five 777. Okay. Now, if you go, each storage account would have a different configurations that you have mapped it. If you see LRS, first 55 is for LRS, 55 LRS, right? You can say 55 LRS. If you go with the 777, completely it will have a different properties, different values basically. Now you can see the 0S. You can see here also. So this is how we need to understand. So as I told you, so while defining the data type, based on the requirement that you have to define the variable also properly. Otherwise, you cannot create it. Okay. So apart from the creation of the storage account, as I told you, there's something called as a container. You can simply type container, right? Container mean, now if you notice here, I have two containers. But how with this is within the storage account, right? Within a storage account, I have two containers. Let's say if you have 100 or 10, how can I make that, right? Normally, as I told you, if you go with a normal storage account, you can only create one storage account. I mean, one containers. Let me show you that. Storage account.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Bro, just one doubt.
Mhm.
So in this module concept, this outputs.vf is output.tf is should be inside the module, or we can mention this outside the module also.
This normally, technically, if you ask, you have to mention both location. You have to define the child module as well as root module.
In the both location, like the variable.tf.
Yes. 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 Okay.
Okay. Okay, bro.
Now, yeah, let me show you here. If you notice here, I'm going to create the storage account, default one, right? This is the locations, network rule, everything. Okay, this is not that. This thing maybe. Let me check another one. Containers. Okay, I will show you. Okay, as your containers. Otherwise, you can go here. There a container block we have. No, at the main.tf we have it. Go to main.tf. There's a container block we have it here, right? Storage container. You can copy paste it here. If you know the resource block is okay. If you don't know, just copy paste the block, paste it in the Google Chrome or whatever block. Now it will take you directly containers. Now, now if I see, this is the storage account name we are creating. Then we are going to create the containers. If you see here, this container is creating only one containers. Now within this storage account, how can I make multiple containers, right? That is when basically we need to use this for each will help you a lot. Okay, for each with the there is some functions we have it. Let's say, let me show you. Okay, Let me show you. So if you notice here, right, this is all okay because this is simple. Now within this, now as I told you, now I have two storage account. Let me show you thing. Yeah, so I have two storage account, right? Now because storage account it should be map, right? This map I have done in the variable file, but here um here I mean to say here is okay. That means two storage account going to be created. Now I am saying for each storage account I need to create containers. That also if you see tfvars file you can see this also. Let me show you. If you go the containers, I say it has to map first container in this particular storage account name. It has to be name should be first container should backup, then the log. Same way for the another storage account name has to be backup and archive. How can you make? Normally in your Terraform core it is not possible because if you see this is a very simple. It simply create one storage account, one container. So this is where we need to think in the real time how I can create multiple container within the same storage account. So this is the reason why I have made this specifically this one to make you understand better. Okay. So what I did was if you just go here, right? I have defined as a container as a uh, list of object, then name as a string. Containers object as you know, right? Because it has some properties and everything, then string. Now here, if you go main.tf, what is this actually? You might be thinking this looks little this we have understood, we have taken from the variable file everything, but here because this is a nested block, that means inside block inside we can manage as a nested block. Nested block means this is a actually storage block, and inside storage block I have another block called as a container, because if you see the, as I mentioned, this container, right, whatever we are seeing, this container is not, this is inside the container, I mean storage account. So how you can make that, right? So this is where we have to use a for is. If you use for is, not just for is why we use, because we want to map them, right? So as part of the instruct, I mean this thing, it says that we can map, if it's a map or set of strings, right? In that situation we can use a for is. But question is, what is C for in flatten, then for sa key, then sa dot band? What is it? You may think confusing this one. Yes, of course. Even sometimes I get confused this also, because this is very advanced. The core actually to understand also sometimes quite difficult for us to understand. But let me give a small uh, idea. Basically, what we need to understand here. Okay, first thing, as we all know, this is basically a meta argument, right? Now, flatten. Flatten is nothing but there is a something called as a Terraform functions we have, right? Flatten also there is a Terraform function. So let me show you. Terraform function, simply I'll type Terraform function in Azure. Let me see if I can get Azure related resources. Azure, okay, function in Azure. Let me check if I can get any documents for the Azure related. Otherwise, we'll see Azure function, not function app, but okay, no, I will just type as Terraform function, that's it, because this seems confused. Okay, as you type Terraform, this is basically built-in functions. Functions mean what? Basically, we need to understand this also. Now, depends basically your requirement. You may do some activity, you may do some calculations, or maybe everything, right? So this case we can use. For example, there is a different things. We can just take a look this also. I'll give you this note as well to deal with the different situations. But trust me, you don't have to think much now. For now, as you learn, it will be okay. Let's say if you want to deal with a file example, there is a different kind of this thing. You can override related things. You can just follow how to do it, everything. Same way for the, if you're doing for the data source related, provider related, or maybe module related. So there's so many other functions are there. But let's come to the point that is what we call this will not come sometime. You can mention as a pattern, right? I can simply type like this Terraform, because there are so many functions are there. Terraform sometimes not able to list everything, so you need to type explicitly. Now understand this one. Pattern basically, pattern takes a list or list and replace any element that are list with a pattern sequence of the list content. Okay, now say for example, if you want to understand better, take a look here. This is pattern counts I use it. One, this is A, B, and here we have dimension and C dimension. Now, if you give this value, right, um, you can see one, B, C, empty one. So if any of the nested list, as I mentioned, it will be a nested list, also container directly nested list we can use in the show. So there is many way. You're still confusing that, not an issue. Let me come little example case. Networking we have here. We have a example. Let me see if this is the one. One minute. Yeah, I think yeah, this is not given much explanations or details, but yeah, if you want to maybe we can use your flattening nested structure for each. This is what we are working, right? So let me click here. Basically, users need to explore the documents as I mentioned, then understand it and see how we can use it. So this is one of the we can use it. They can ignore for set of strings. Also, we can ignore. We learned that also flatten check, right. Okay, anyway, there are so many resources actually. Sometimes it seems a little confusing to find the right resources. So users need to explore and give some time to understand it. Okay, but let's not spend much time as we all know the definition, what it does basically. Let's go to the code here. Okay, so I'm saying now under for is there is a meta arguments. Now see for this is basically this is all functions. I'm saying now for it's one condition like for mean is basically using if not do this and something like that. Okay, with some condition basically. Now for C is nothing but it is a content. C is a container. Okay, C container in pattern. Let's say for SE sa key. Okay, SA mean in your variables account. Okay, now for container in container mean as we all know, container mean basically we are talking about the container what we were trying to show you. I mean this one. Okay, so we are trying to do that, and then key has to key as I mentioned key value is a key and name we want, right? Key has to be taken from the with the keys, so whatever name we have it, and with the container name it has to be this name should be there, and the name has to be taken container dot name, container dot name whatever name you have given. Same thing storage account name sec key. Sec key is nothing but storage account key. Okay, as sec key means storage account key actually. So this is a short name. So you normally if you working with the in the real time cases and all these things they are C where we are passing into the C argument we are passing this one. Now same thing for the name for the container is the value dot name, is the value dot name with the as I mentioned this is the nested block, right? So if you see uh, name and the container we have a name. Just let me show you.
Hello,
Uh,
bro. One doubt.
yeah. Mhm,
Bro, here you mentioned C, right? C means container. Is it
mhm.
defined anywhere or by default C means container in this?
Yes, it is a functions. You don't have you have to define it. Yeah. This one
Where
you
it is
seen,
mentioned,
right?
I mean, any document, yeah, C and SCA.
Okay.
Any
There's
any document is there for this? I mean,
this is that much that I don't think that much of documents is there. I mean for this is there, but you can explore this function. Basically, you know the function of flatten, why we use it. Okay. Then you get to know everything. These functions, when you write it, basically with some condition, we can define. Basically, I just want to define C whatever key is there, nothing but it's a C like that. Now, same way for
okay.
the container name also, uh, as I told you, it has to map, right? So you can go the Theaverse file under containers. Sorry, my bad. Container, right? It's example, we have a name and the name we have a definite name. So they have it has to map. So like still you seems confusing, I know, but it's okay. Don't you will take time. So same way for storage account ID. While calling it, you can see because I don't just have one storage account, right? Because I have multiple storage account based on these things. So how I can define this also you need to understand here. That means till here is okay because I want to call a storage account ID, but in my case I have two storage account ID, right? So how I can call them? So you can see Azure RM is till here is a local name, right? Till here, if you see here, this is the local name. Azure RM storage account, then local name. Till here is okay. Now, apart from this one, as I told you, there are two storage account. How I can call? As I told you, is the value you have to use. Is the value I have used from where? Then storage account name. From storage account name, whatever is the value is there, I have to call with the ID name because I want to call the ID is the ID. This is why I mentioned. Container, this is nothing. This is be given as a private. So this function, no, if you want to learn more, try to Google it. Maybe try to search GPT mention that why we use this thing, what this thing, you get more idea on that. But trust me, this is actually not a basic. It's very in the real time case. You will see these configurations actually. Okay, this configuration you will see in the real time. This is a complex data. So for now, you don't have to worry much about. Let's focus. But I just wanted to show you so that you get some idea basically how it works, right? So same thing for the other resources, Okay. Anyway, I will make a notes. I'll give you that also. Don't worry. I'll share some notes for the functions, everything. But we have a dedicated session for functions also, Terraform functions. We will try to learn everything there also. So you know, right? What is the difference between count and the meta argument now? I mean, count and the forest. Same thing. I will try to maybe destroy it. Terraform apply. Okay, maybe yeah. So I will give this as a, it is there already. Just take a look this one, how it is being used, or simply you can copy paste it, put in the, we have so many this thing, I hope search GPT or other thing, try to understand logic, why we use, what is the other way we can use it. We can use apart from this one more, this thing forest, this thing also, but that case, it is not that flexible as compared to the flatten. So this is why I use a flatten, and I show even the real-time project also they're using flatten. So I'm also trying to use similar way. Okay, so yeah. So anyway, thank you, team. So we'll maybe wind up the sessions for today. Thank you once again. Have a nice weekend.